You showed the results. A lot of people, they thought like, oh, this is just a hit and trial.
Stuck on a technique. Like they don't really learn SEO, they learn a particular technique. And if that
You said if they try to focus a lot more on the content, which is actually added inside, it can make a lot of difference
a
in.
lot of people just like, oh, this is it, it's over. It's like,
Welcome to another exciting episode of the Agency Growth Lab. And today we have a very special guest who is nothing short of an SEO legend, the man who has practically cracked the code without even actually breaking any laws. In today's episode, we are going to deep dive in the world of SEO with Carl Roof from High Voltage SEO. We'll be discovering a wide range of topics that will help you stay ahead of the curve. This includes what's working in SEO these days, the March Google update, which was a crazy one, we all know, and it just tanked a lot of sites. So we're going to talk about how to fix those kind of sites. And we'll be talking about the EEAT as well. And most importantly, we will cover what kind of SEO tests Carl is performing these days. I'm super excited about that. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an informative, entertaining session with legendary Carl Roof. Let's jump right in. So welcome you, Carl. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
That's great. That's a pleasure to have you up here, man. So, Carl, let's start with the origin story. Like, how did you deep dive into the world of SEO? Was it a first love with the keywords? How did it all go, and when was that?
Yeah, for me, it was necessity. I had a business that I started with my brother in India, and we were doing web design development. He can code. He does web design and development, and we got the bright idea of opening a company in India, and we did that. And we were told you're going to get a shakedown from the police at some point, and we did. There was a knock at the door, and they're the police. And my brother was there. I was in the U.S. at the time, and they asked for his business papers, and he gave the papers like these are the wrong papers, and he was like, okay, how much do you want? And then instead of asking for a bribe, they arrested him and threw him in jail. And he's sitting in jail, and he's talking to the chief of police, and the chief of police goes, look, these could be the right papers. I don't know, but you have two choices. One, you can leave town tomorrow, or two, you can sit in jail and wait for the magistrate to come, and the magistrate will sort this out. And my brother says, well, when does the magistrate come? And the chief of police goes, I don't know. So my brother goes, I think I'll leave town tomorrow. So he gets back to the office. He grabs what he can. Our employees have fled. We get him back to the US, and we're hemorrhaging clients because we don't have anybody that can work on these projects. And my brother goes, look, I can take these 4 clients because he can code, and I can take these and I can survive. And I don't code, but we had just started doing this thing called SEO, and we
Yeah.
had landed a couple of our clients. And then basically, for me to pay the rent next month, I had to figure out how to do SEO so that I could keep those contracts. And it turned out I wasn't too bad at it, and I was able to grow uh, from there. And then a little while later, I met my now business partner, and we were able to start the agency High Voltage. But it's a fun and happy story now, but it was a little
Yeah.
nerve wracking
Especially
back
when
then.
yeah, especially when we look back, like, oh,
Yeah.
it all started by then, and you guys have come through a long way up now. So yeah,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
I can imagine. And when was that? Um,
That was all 2014-ish, right in there.
so yeah,
2013, 2014.
yeah, for about a decade. So I remember like I met you in person in a couple of times in Chiang Mai. I met you at Disneyland, that SEO Rockstar conference
That's
as well.
right. I forgot about that. Yeah.
So,
Ah,
so it's been
all the
like
way back. That was like 2015, 2016, maybe.
20, I think that was 2017, the
Okay.
one
Yeah.
to
Yes.
I
Yes.
met you over there in the very same year as well, I remember. So I was
Yeah. Yeah.
fan of your SEO testing, and I do remember that story, the one which you spoke about, the calculus one, that how the whole mathematics actually do work. So just need to respect math. So that is
uh,
more important in the world of SEO. So yeah, you're well known for the SEO test. We all know, like you try to focus a lot on these testing. So why is that? Why do you focus so much on the tests? And then how do you actually measure the results for these tests? Why do you think they are so important in the world of SEO?
I started testing just I've said this before, where like when I was learning SEO, I'd go to Google and say, like, is this a ranking factor? or should I do this? And you get 3 yeses, 3 nos, and 3 maybes. And I'm like, well, that's not helpful at all. And then so I realized like, oh, I should just put up my own sites and I can practice this and I can try it out. But then as I put up those test sites to, just try things, I still realized I wasn't getting much of an answer. Things take time to do. And I really wasn't getting like a definitive answer. Yes, this is a ranking factor, or this is stronger than that. I wasn't really getting any of that kind of information. And I was really kind of thinking about it for a while. And then one day I was doing a search where I was like, just kind of playing with Google. And I put in just a string of letters that weren't a word, and I got a result that said we don't have anything here for this.
Yep.
This isn't in the index. And then it occurred to me, I was like, well, if I create a page going after that fake word, then I control that entire environment. And then if I start to introduce one thing into that environment, I can now really see if something is or is not a ranking factor. And I can see if something is stronger than something else, and I can really start to play with it. And so that was the method that I was able to develop to run those tests. Then in 2015 at Rockstars,
Yep.
that was the first time that I spoke. And on that stage, I was talking about that testing method and then those tests that I had done. And I really thought it'd be collaborative, where I was going to show my tests and other people talk about how they test. And 5 minutes into that talk, I realized that nobody's doing it like this. That very few people are doing this sort of thing. And when you think about like an agency, what are you selling? What are you doing? Every agency needs to have a point of view. They have to say like, this is what we do and why. And if you don't really have a point of view, if you're just selling SEO services, then now you have to compete with everybody. But what I realized is that we are building our techniques and all that off of these tests, and nobody else is actually doing this. So we can really brand ourselves as we're scientifically based.
Yep.
Ask the agencies that you're talking to, your other ones you're talking to about this work, what tests are they running right now? And I guarantee the answer is they're not running anything. And that means if they're not running anything, that means they're learning on your site.
Yep.
They're testing on your site to figure things out. We test over here to find out work, and that's what we bring to the table. And it allowed us to have a real point of view as to why we're doing the SEO that we're doing, and it really allowed us to stand out from the crowd of all the other service providers that are out there. They're just regurgitating what I'm teaching, whereas like if you want to go to the source, we're the source. And then that allowed us to really differentiate ourselves in a big way. Say that we're math-based, we're science-based. We don't test on your site. We test on over here, and we bring you the best kind of a thing. And then that kind of defined why I do what I do and why the company does what it does.
Yep. And how do you guys measure that? I mean, like, do you guys use some kind of like a tool? In our agency, we use the SEOcrawl.com. It just tells us, okay, before the test, what kind of impressions we were getting in and what kind of impressions we are getting now, or even before and after the updates as well. Sometimes you can actually put a fine line between when did I get started and how is it now? So how do you guys usually measure that?
If you want to do that type of test, another tool to use would be like SEOtesting.com. Same kind of idea, where you could say like, okay, on these 10 pages, we're going to do one thing, and on these 10, we're going to do something else. And that's a great way to do it without really getting into like the weeds of a test, like not a really like hardcore focus test, but just like, hey, let's see what the site responds best to. That's a great thing to do. If you don't want to get into these really complex or difficult to set up or difficult to measure kind of tests, that everyone should be doing that, because you just want to measure if what you're doing is effective, and that's a great way to do it. But the kind of tests that I'm talking about are let's say is the H2 a ranking factor? All right, let's just as a question. And so what you're going to do is you're going to create 5 identical pages for the same term. You're going to launch them all, and then on one of them you're going to add an H2 with the target keyword. On the other 4, you're going to add the keyword one more time in paragraph text, so that the term frequency remains the same. And then the idea is that if that page goes up, that's a positive factor. If it goes down, that's a negative factor. If it doesn't move, then you've got a non-factor. And so that's the kind of testing that we're talking about, to say like, yes, the H2 is a signal area that Google is looking at, and it's giving more importance to the H2 than it is to paragraph text. So now we know that is a ranking factor, and it's stronger than something else. Now, a real thing that we learned though is you need to do this test multiple times. But something else you can do is actually test in the inverse. So if you do the test the other way and the page drops, so on the one hand you do it and it goes up, and then you do it the other way where everybody else gets an H2 and one test doesn't and it drops, then you know you've got something because you're able to see it move both ways with and without that signal area, and then you can feel really good that you found a factor and that its relative strength to other factors.
Yeah, no, I still remember that your Lorem Ipsum one. Like, how
Yeah.
did you do that? Do you remember like you rocked the stage at SEO Rockstar in Disneyland, and then you showed the results. A lot of people they thought like, oh, this is just a hit and trial, what Kyle has done. And then the next slide was, I do remember the crowd sitting up there. We did the same with the e-commerce, ladies and gentlemen. This is the result we achieved.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
We did the same with this one. So it was actually a proper mathematics and the science involved and the testing involved behind that. It was not just a hit and trial, which a lot of people were thinking like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was actually important, like how you guys did the test, and then you expanded those kind of testings on the different niches and even on the different models as well, like a e-commerce, or could be the lead gen, or could be the rank and
Yeah.
rent kind of things as well. That was literally fabulous.
That was a lot of fun. The whole point of that whole thing though is to show that Google isn't reading the page
Yep.
as you do, or as I do, as
Yep.
humans do. It's reading as an algorithm reads, and if you can give the algorithm the math that it wants, you can do very, very well. And the content itself doesn't matter because it's not reading the content, and they're still not reading the content. I can tell you that from the stuff that we're working on now. It's still all pretty much the same. It's not any kind of reading that's going on. It's still very math based, and that's how you get into the organic results.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely talk about this one more time when we'll touch a bit of a topic with the AI content and the normal one. I really want to know like what kind of testing results you're getting right now these days with the AI content as well. But let's talk about the trends. What do you think is actually currently working in SEO these days, and what kind of strategies is actually working for you or your agency, or even in the loop of agencies you're talking with, and what is kind of a stuff you're actually leaving in the dust right now?
So almost all of the stuff that worked before still works, like
Yeah.
basically all of it. I think when you look at the HCU update last year and then the March core update this year, I think almost all of that was manual. That
Yeah.
was Google uh, doing a manual action on a lot of sites to try to make a lot of noise to scare people into conformity rather than something that is algorithmic that they're able to determine. Because I know a lot of sites post those updates that are doing the exact same things, especially with AI content, which they really don't, I think, like, but all still working. I know sites that got through. I think we all know sites that got through that were doing all the stuff that got hit, and they're doing well. They're doing
Yeah.
just fine. So none of the techniques have changed. None of that has changed at all. I think what we've seen in the last little bit and why people are really getting upset is that their sites got hit and their sites aren't recovering. And I think it's going to be kind of like with Penguin back in 2012 that a lot of sites just don't recover.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever Google put them, that's just where they're going to stay for years. And that's how it's going to be. But if the sites that got through or sites that are created afterwards are actually probably going to do just fine with all the exact same techniques, even the ones that might have gotten those other sites hit. So the last several tests that we've done are just to look at, because people say like, hey, they're not looking at H tags anymore. They're rendering the page and just reading, and they don't look at that anymore as a factor. And so we go through and we test and see if those H tags are still, and they are, and they are, and they still work very well. Or people said things about, oh, you don't even need HTML tags anymore.
Yep.
You can just put content on a page. And while Google can read content eventually, you really are shooting yourself in the foot by
Yep.
not putting it in HTML tags. And that's still the same.
Yep.
Stuff in paragraph tags will still beat stuff in like span tags, for
Yep.
example. That kind of stuff. Then we were looking at, all right, they say that links aren't important anymore. So then what we did is we ran this test last month where we set up a bunch of PDFs. So .pdfs, and they contain links. And we just want to see like that. In my mind, that's like the lowest level link possible. Like a PDF that I put up on one site and now I'm linking to this other site. You know, that's got to be the lowest budget, lowest value link imaginable, and that totally moved the page up and moved it. So Google's still crawling, looking at those things, still valuing even the
Well,
slightest link within the link graph to affect ranks. So yeah, all of that still works. Nothing like that has changed, and that's
yeah,
also a big reason for testing, because especially in times like this where it's really a lot of people just like, oh, this is it, it's over. You know, it's like, well, is it over? You know, do
trying to
these
move
things
on.
work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be perfectly honest, I hope a lot of people do think it's over. And I do hope a lot of people do move on, because then that's just going to make more money for people like yourself
True.
and myself, like that. You know, we're there, and I think a lot of people get stuck on a technique. Like they don't really learn SEO, they learn a particular technique. And if that technique doesn't work anymore, or they have doubt about that technique, there really isn't anything else for them to do, because they didn't learn SEO, they didn't learn a framework, they didn't learn a concept, they just really mastered a technique for a
True.
particular thing. And because they're not really thinking about the why of what that technique is doing, there isn't anything else for them to try. And so for them, I do think it seems hopeless. There is
Hmm.
nothing else to do, because maybe that particular technique isn't effective anymore. So yeah, I hope those people hear this, or I hope they hear all that nonsense and all that noise on Twitter, and I
True.
hope that they take it to heart, and I hope they go away.
Yeah, because this March update literally made them think that do they stick with the SEO? Do they move on to some other model like a paid media
Right.
or find something? So yeah, what do you want to say? Because this March update was one of the craziest one. We all know you said like there was a manual one, obviously, but definitely a lot of people has lost their big digital assets. They a lot of sites they do get tanked, and that wasn't really a good one to be honest. So what do you think for the people who actually those sites which has got tanked from the on-page perspective? What do you think would be the best way they can do to fix those kind of rankings which they have already lost?
Well, the tricky part is if they were hit by that, especially by the March update, I don't know that there's anything you can do to recover.
Okay,
Here's something I would explore.
that's an honest answer.
Yeah, something I would explore though is take that content that was ranking pretty well. Maybe you had something on page one and now it's on page six, or it was on page one and now it's gone completely. Take that content and put it on a different domain. You know, put it
Okay,
on something else and see how it performs. And if you immediately go back to up to like page two or page three with nothing, then you know it's the domain is the problem,
it's the
and it's not the
domain.
content. Now, if you take that content and you move it onto a reasonably whatever kind of domain, and still, then you know that something shifted with your content. Then you know that something is wrong with that content, and then there is something there that you might be able to fix. You know,
Okay,
then that's possible. But you want to test that out. And I haven't really seen any good tests yet from people that on sites that have been hit doing something like that to really determine, are we talking about the domain is the problem, or are we talking about that the content, you know, the goalposts have moved and they need to redo this content. And uh, yeah, so that's how I would approach that. Let's see if it's the content or the domain before spending a lot of time and money and energy trying to fix things when we don't really know what's wrong.
true, very true. And do you think like off page was a contributor in that as well, or that was all the on page or the content was the main one? Because I think there was a big shift when the people were trying to make it with blasting out like the thousands of posts every single month on their websites using AI bots and all that. So I think that was more to do with on page maybe, or especially the content side. Do you think off page was something to do with this March update as well?
You're right. It feels a lot more on page just with them addressing kind of mass scale AI content. Um, but you know, that's another thing. You just don't know. Like there could have been, what if it was like a ratio of the amount of links that you have per the amount of pages you have? So if you have a lot of content and you have a lot of links, maybe you were fine. So in that sense, it was a link based one because you're creating content without the links. You
Yes.
know what I mean? So it's very possible that it's something like that.
Yeah. So we just need to think general, like what is working. So let's talk about eat. For
Yeah.
example, I know you stress a lot on these kind of entities like entities, eats, topical maps, that kind of things, and they're some of the flashy terms these days as well. What do you think? Let's say there is a page, and we'll talk about the local page, local SEO, because that's most of the stuff which we and you guys do it as well. How a local business can actually go and improve the eat factors in their web page, you reckon?
I've found though, if they're a real local business and they're a real brand, those really don't have eat problems because they can usually be transparent about their address and their phone number and who is the owner of the company
Mhm,
and who is right all stuff. And those, that's most of the stuff within eat is really determining. I think the trust factor of eat is who owns this website and who
mhm,
is responsible for the content.
mhm.
And usually real businesses don't have any problem being open about that. The ones that have problems are like the affiliate marketers that are trying to hide the fact that they are not the main brand. They're not the main thing. They're the ones usually that eat issues. So I I think most if step one is become real. Become as real as you can.
Yep.
And the more real you are, the less eat issues you will have. So go and get a business address. Maybe you do work from home. A lot of people I work from home, but
Okay. Yep.
but my home address isn't on anything. I have a business address, and I
Yep.
have a registered business address where all my business stuff goes to that address, and you have a local phone number for that. And you should be able to get those things
Yep.
and run your businesses through those. So that'd be a step one. It is important to note though that if you do all the eat stuff, you're not going to gain rank. You're not going to move up in rank on that. It's the kind of thing that protects you once Google does a check for it,
Mhm.
kind of to help you keep your rank. So, just going out and getting an address is not going to move your rank at all. It actually might help you in the maps, maybe, for proximity searches. But otherwise, though, it's the kind of thing that protects the rank that you got, not necessarily anything that gives you rank. So that's what makes it hard for people to say, like, these guys don't have it and they're doing fine. Well, sure, maybe they just haven't been checked yet. You know,
Yeah.
that's probably what it is. But it's never anything that's going to push rank at all, but it will help maintain your rank. And on top of that, when you think about trust signals for just buyers, being transparent has to be a signal that people are looking for, and would
Yep.
make it more likely for them to buy your product when they know who you are. So I think at a minimum, it's going to help with that, even if it doesn't help anything with your SEO. But I think they're good things to do. They usually don't take that long to figure out, and you can get done in a day or two. And then once you get there done, that is one of the few things in our industry where I think you do it one time and it's done. Like, then you're done. You can move on to other things. So
Sure.
I would get it done and just make yourself as safe, just for
Yep.
safety purposes.
Yeah. Yeah. So now some situations are actually very typical, I would say. Like, for example, you said like for this March update, it could be like something we can slap the content on a new domain and can do it. Or maybe an affiliate or maybe someone else can actually do it, but situation could be different for a real business, like a local business.
Yeah.
Would want to change the domain in that particular case. So, is there any kind of advice you want to give it for them? Because there are few people I know like who came to us and they feel like hey, their site rankings has got down and there's a lot of things has been done, but still the rankings hasn't been improved yet. And that's a local plumbers, I mean. So is there any kind of thing or nuggets you want to give it to for the people who are stuck in that kind of thing at the moment?
I mean, I would make sure I would still do that test.
Okay.
Try that content and see. Because if your domain is completely screwed, then best to make the change now, than try to wait. But I know exactly what you mean though. Giving up a domain can be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Especially if it's your domain, if it's the name of your company. I can understand how difficult that
Oh yeah.
decision can be.
Yeah.
But you want to see if it's possible. Can maybe put up some new stuff. How's that new stuff ranking? Is it just nah, or is it ranking really well? Maybe there is hope in something you can do if new stuff is ranking well and all that. But my fear is that it's not. And it's just going to be down for years. So if you can be down for years, then fine. If you need something
Sure.
now, then I would look at making a bigger change.
Yep. No, definitely. And One of the question I really want to ask you about the AI content. Are you guys actually using the AI content for your testing, for your real sites, to save the dollars on the using the human writers? Or you are a big fan of AI content these days, or you feel like, no, it's not really good way to go? What do you think about it?
I think it's good for like the supporting content you're gonna like the top of the funnel type content. I think it's still good for that, and it's good for a first draft.
Okay,
But before we might pay for like a writing crew out of the Philippines to do this first draft. Now we just
sure.
have the AI doing it. I think the quality is about the same. I think the how factual it is about the same.
Yes.
But it's just significantly cheaper and a little bit faster.
Yep.
So yeah, it's first draft type material, but you definitely want to edit for brand, for tone, for factualness, for uniqueness. I would think of it as something like 70% of the way there. But you still need to do 30%, which is what you're getting anyway from those content producers
Yep.
anyway.
Yep.
So now you're just getting it at a better price and a faster turnaround. But you still need
Yep.
to edit for all of those things.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, do you guys use that kind of content, or do you prefer that kind of content for the supporting articles in the local
Yeah,
websites as well?
for supporting, I feel really good about
Wow,
it.
perfect.
The more detailed you need it to be, like even on that plumber site, it's not going to be able to give you really good plumbing information.
No.
It's not going to know, and especially if you're a specialist for something. I don't
Yep.
know, like maybe you're the type of plumber that's known for this technique, or this plumber that's known for this type of product, or something like that. It's never going to be able to write
No, it's not.
anything, about that.
Yeah, it's just good for those how to fix a leak or that kind of
Yeah,
articles. In general, kind of,
exactly right.
you can get it via that.
That's exactly right.
And I guess the programmatic SEO thing can be achieved with the AI content because it's a lot more easy these days to actually extract that data. Where it used to take a lot of time in the past, you remember. So in few cases, yes, the AI content can be actually very helpful, but that's what I believe. So yeah.
You know,
But yeah, go for it.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say on that, I think it was 2014. I think it was the first rock stars that I went to actually.
Yeah.
Um, the man's name slips my mind at the moment. I'm very sorry, but he gave a really good presentation on article spinning, and he was talking about word spinning is terrible, going in and just like spinning, like changing one word. But he's
I
talking
think
about paragraph spinning
Matt
is
Wood,
excellent.
I think that was
It was
Matthew Wood.
it wasn't it was Ulrich
All right.
is his last name.
All
But
right.
anyway, he was talking
Yep.
about paragraph spinning though is amazing. And then if you can spin the sentences within the paragraph, he said the uniqueness level you can get is something beyond like the grains of sand on all the beaches on the planet.
Yeah.
And just how unique that it can become spinning that way. And so I think if programmatic AI can work very well with AI because it becomes easier to spin paragraphs. Now, for example, how you spin paragraphs is you have, let's say, 4 sections, A, B, C, and D on an article, and you write it 2 times, and you have 2 different people write, but you just say, you give them the heading for each one. I need you to write about this. So about writing about the same thing for each section.
Yep.
And then within each of those sentences is you go in and you have a new sentence written. So like the sentence would be like, I like bicycles. It'd be like, bicycles are my favorite thing. You've
Mm-hmm.
essentially said the same thing, but you've spun the entire sentence. And now you've
Yes.
got 2 options for every sentence, within each paragraph, give or take. So then when you spit A from one, B from two, C and D, so you've done that, but then within each of those ones, you can take the A or B sentence out of
Yep.
all of those. And now you've got a completely brand new article that is exactly the same
Hey.
concept, but it's completely unique. Now, if you were to add 4 articles, so you've got article A, B, C, and D, and you do that
Mm-hmm.
same mix and match where you've got, 1A, 3B, 4C, 2D, and then you do the A, B paragraph sentences within each of those. Now you've got unlimited. You can do thousands upon thousands of the same
True.
type of article within programmatic, and AI can actually handle that function pretty quickly for you rather than
Yes.
going through some complex spreadsheet kind of situation.
Yep.
So I think programmatic has some options of really blowing up if done properly, where you're not just doing, basic word spinning, but you're doing it at the paragraph or sentence level. I
Yes.
think then it can be very, very effective.
Yeah, true. Because a lot of people, I think they try to take the shortcuts up there. They just fill in the data and create the pages on the fly.
Right.
But like you said, if they try to focus a lot more on the content, which is actually added inside, it can make a lot of difference in their programmatic SEO because Google,
Yeah.
they love data. So they're always a big fan of that. So there are
Yeah.
a few top questions I've got, Kyle. The number one is, what do you think is the future of SEO now? Because every second agency, they've been trying to switch to the media, paid media these days, and they feel like, hey, the SEO is not there gonna stay for too long. So what do you think about it?
Well, as long as there is an algorithm making ranking decisions, there will be SEO. And
Yep.
so if people are getting out, I think one of the reasons that people are getting out though is because 2018 there was a really big I think explosion in the amount of SEO providers.
Yep.
And then COVID happens, and in 20 and 21, people are working at home and more people get into SEO and more
Well,
companies
yeah.
need those SEO services, right? So then now I think what we're seeing more than anything is a natural contraction of a lot of people that are providing services and people needing less services,
Yeah.
or not sustaining the same level of growth needed. That's what I see more than anything. And so I think this is now a great time to be in SEO.
Yeah.
I think because people will be getting out, and once people are out, that just means there's more opportunity.
Yeah, more
So,
opportunity. There are gonna be less people up there.
yep.
And yeah, got it.
So I think right now is a great time to be in SEO. And again, I hope people hear the doom and gloom, and I hope they believe it, and I hope they get out, because that clears out space for you and I. So um, yeah, let's
Let's
hold
hope.
tight. We'll
Yeah.
be just fine. I think we'll be more than just fine.
Yeah, it's good to diversify, I think. Like
Yeah.
diversification is always good because then you're gonna have the client is coming in. It's more like a funnels. Like the clients are coming in, you're having a more ways to actually offer them the services. So it's just
Yep.
your ways to skin the cat.
Yep.
So
For
yeah,
sure.
no, um, yeah, and I was actually supposed to ask you this question at the very start, but maybe I just moved my mind. Like, what is a typical day of Kyle? I mean, like, how does it all go through? And you start your day, you go with some meditation. What kind of things actually happen? Because the reason I'm asking is that I know, like, for my couple of visits to Chiang Mai, I know there's a lot of diversification, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different food, and spirituality is over there as well. So how do you go about it? What's your typical
So
day?
I personally am not a very spiritual person. I'm
Uh,
an atheist, so I don't jump in on that part of it. But I have done my fair share of temple tours,
yeah.
and my son does go to a Buddhist school, so
Okay.
there is that. But in the morning, I'm up 7ish, 7:30, and I usually have to get on pretty quickly online because we have people like on U.S. time zones that are getting
Yeah.
off, and I
Yeah.
need to see if like there's anything that they need done right then and there. And then like because I've got like IMG courses and stuff like that, while I was sleeping overnight, there are gonna be questions that people have asked, and it's a big part of my responsibility is answering those questions. So I try to get onto those kind of
Yep.
quickly. From there, I try to look and see if I've got some time to get to the gym or to get out, because then like maybe I've got a morning show just like this. So for today, this one started at my 10:30. So that makes it
Yep.
a little bit tricky to get to the gym, but maybe I get to the gym after that. In the afternoon, I usually try to have some free time, because then usually in the afternoon, I'm doing another podcast or YouTube show or recording. And
Yep.
then I've often got some meetings that'll take me maybe to 8 or 9.
Yeah.
So it's
That's a
a lot of it's disjointed throughout the day, where I have a lot going on maybe in the morning and a lot going on in the afternoon or evening. Um, but then it's a lot of answering a lot of questions. I'm
yeah. Yeah.
kind of
I can.
constantly on an AMA throughout
Yeah. I
my
can.
entire day.
Because I know, like, I'm inside the IMG as well, so I know, like, you interact a lot inside that community as well, and it's a fabulous one. It's just a bouquet of everything. Like, you can,
Mm.
all right, you want to go with Google News? That's the Google News course one.
Yeah,
Schema Cleanse has got
there
some
it
schema.
is. Exactly.
It's actually a very good course, a complete course, I could say, or a community, I would say, in itself, because otherwise there is information on YouTube and other places as well, but that's very scattered. You know what I mean? And what
Right.
made you think? Because the one which you guys have created, the IMG, that's a different model. What a normal courses are be like. What made you guys think like, okay, let's collaborate with the other guys who are good in that particular field and let's build out something. What was the idea behind that?
The original idea was just more based on the tests, and we kind of had the courses going on as one-offs. But we realized that while people like looking at the tests, I mean, they're difficult to apply broadly.
Yep.
It's more like a lot of it in a sense, like, oh, that's pretty interesting, but not necessarily useful, like in the moment. And a lot of people, what we realized, because then we did launch like my white hat course in 20, I think that was
On page.
2019.
Yeah, on
Yeah,
page.
and that sold really, really well. And then we kind of got the idea that people want to learn. Well, they want to see the test. They also really want to
Yeah,
learn. And so then we kind of played with this model of let's have the test, but then let's also bring in some courses where then people can go through the course and then ask questions and
yes.
actually learn how to do SEO. And so then that's how we kind of evolved from just a testing platform to really more of what we are now as a courses
Yeah,
platform with
yeah,
the community.
yeah,
Um, but that was kind of that transition where I realized people want to learn how to do it. The tests give us this level of credibility. Like people can see that, oh, those are cool. I see this as valid. And then at the end of the day, they really just want the courses where they can learn how to do the stuff. They can learn the application of the
true.
testing material.
Yeah, no, it's actually a good one. I know, like, I purchased your course at that time too, that on page one, that was very fabulous, very actionable at that time. So yeah, that's all about it actually. But so what kind of advice do you want to give it to the people who've been listening to this podcast once it goes live? I mean, like, who've been, some of them been starting out in SEO and a little scared what can happen, what the future of SEO is. What do you think about it as a quick nutshell?
you know People can run their own tests. You don't have to listen to my word. You don't have to take my word on anything. And you can run it. And I find though that the people that do run their own tests really gain a lot of knowledge and are usually very successful,
Yeah,
because they have something to talk about and they have things to try. But they also, when things look bad, when things look grim, you can still test. You can pivot. You can figure something out, and you have the means to figure something out,
true.
rather than just like having to wait for somebody else to tell you what to do.
Yeah,
So yeah, get out there and do it. Continue to do SEO. See what works. There will be things that'll work for a long time, and the people that can figure that out are the ones that are going to do very, very well, especially right now as people leave the industry. So
yeah.
get out there, do some learning, and you can do very well.
Oh yeah. And what kind of off-page signals do you guys actually use these days? Do you guys still use PBNs or not?
Within the agency, we do manual outreach for our clients. We are still a very content forward agency,
Yep.
in how we approach things, but we do manual outreach.
All right. No PBNs, no blanket stuff like that.
No, I mean, if a client asks for it, we would consider that, but that'd be a client's decision, not our advocating for something like that.
Yep. No worries. Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. So if the people wants to know more about you, should they go to your LinkedIn? Should they go to the IMG courses? I'm gonna post all those links in the video
Yeah,
description.
yeah. Yeah, they can go to kyleroof.com, pageroof.pro, or img.courses. All that's great.
Yeah, I forget to actually touch that Page Optimizer Pro. I mean, like, just quick 30 seconds. If you're gonna tell us what kind of improvements you guys have made it in the Page Optimizer Pro, I know, like, to be honest, I'm not using these days, but I've used a lot. I'm definitely gonna go and sign up again because own page is, especially this after this March update, gonna pick up the pace. So what kind of like exciting stuff has been added in the last 6 months to the Page Optimizer Pro? And for the people who doesn't know, Page Optimizer Pro is one of our two proprietary tool, which Kyle, he actually designed, which gonna read the entire page, gonna tell out like what's actually missing in that, what kind of entities are missing into that. It's actually a next level thing.
What we've done recently is a lot of AI integration into things. So like our eat we have next gen eat, which is a big thing where in addition to finding like physical signals, we're also going through 20 points on each of the things to say, like, is this good content? Did you write enough so that an AI bot is going to like this? And actually, well, humans like it too. We have schema now that's incorporated through AI, where we can generate schema for you that's formatted correctly and what you need. So it's not just like, hey, get the schema, but you can actually click a button and get the schema done
Mm-hmm.
for you. Also improvements like in workflow. We have a nice workstation now that just went live last week where you can kind of see all your projects and how they're going. And we've improved our interface a lot. And also the speed of the tool has
Yeah,
increased quite a
yeah, I
bit.
remember. Yes, yes, yes. The
So
speed was one of our biggest one, what we actually noticed at that time. So
yeah,
for sure, I mean, like because you guys getting a lot of feedback, so definitely you guys have improved a lot. So I'll definitely go and sign up for Page Optimizer Pro because I know the tool is coming not just with a code, it's actually coming with a lot of scientific knowledge and the testing you guys have been doing it. So there is a difference between what you guys are doing right now because
yeah,
you're obviously going to incorporate everything into the tool as well so that the people can take a real benefit of that.
yeah. And I can tell you again, we're testing stuff. It's all still working pretty well.
Oh
So
yes.
you can there are edges to be had for sure.
Yep, no worries. No, thanks, Kyle. Thanks for all the opportunity you guys have given us and all the testing knowledge and wisdom you've been sharing on the web as well. It's really exciting. It's very hard to actually get it everything at one place, especially like I said, IMG. So anyone who hasn't signed up for IMG, I would highly recommend them to go and sign up for it because it's worth every single dollar they are actually paying it. I know, like we've been the members for quite some time now, so we know like it's very worthwhile taking the time to go and listen to things and do it. So now thanks for to you, man. I salute you for all the efforts you guys are putting in. So it's really remarkable.
Awesome. Well,
And
thank you so much. I appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for that. Bye-bye.
Bye.